Yes, Wales were the first team to be eliminated then from the knockout stages of Euro 2020. As it turned out, they were thrashed by Denmark in Amsterdam. We'll reflect on that in just a moment, but you are listening to the weekend Euro Game Day Breakfast here on talkSPORT. It's Tony Cascarino and Natalie Sawyer with you until 10 o'clock. OK, let's focus on matters in Amsterdam then. Wales 0, Denmark 4 was the final scoreline in that first last 16 tie that got underway yesterday, live on talkSPORT. Don't forget, talkSPORT bringing you every single European Championship game. Oh, Cass, it was such it was a game that started so positively for Wales. They had a good opening 10-15 minutes, let's say, even maybe a bit longer than that, and then it slipped away from them. Where did it all go wrong for them?
Well, bit like a start of a boxing fight where someone goes and throws in bombs and tries to take out the opponent very early. I thought Wales started in a manner which I questioned yesterday whether they could do it for 90 minutes. Physical, endurance test, because that's what it was going to be against the Danes, because they can run all day. And it fell apart because the other team outworked them, outrun them. Braithwaite was a problem. Obviously, Damsgaard was an issue, and a number of others. Christensen moving into midfield was a masterstroke by the Danish coach. And as the game went on, look, they were very unlucky with the second goal. That's a total foul. That is never.
That was
should
on
have been
Kiefer
given.
Moore.
On Kiefer Moore. The challenge is it's a foul. There's no other debate on that one. Incidentally, Kasper Dolberg. I'd done a lot on Dutch football, and I watched him as a teenager come through Ajax, and never quite sure. And he had every major club in the world, look at him. Everybody was linked to Kasper Dolberg, and his career just sort of fell away. Never really convinced about leading the line, because he's quite big, quite physical. He's got a nice touch, and he's pleasant on the eye. But a lot of people thought, not quite sure. He was one of them, lots and lots of clubs. Nice ended up taking him. He wouldn't have played yesterday. Poulsen was injured. He wouldn't have played. And he's got a brace. And I did say before the game, don't let Denmark shoot from outside the box, because they're really dangerous. And that's how the first goal come about. Because from 20 yards, Dolberg's got it on his right foot, bent it in the bottom corner. Danny Ward, no chance. And it was very difficult, because as the game wore on, you could see that Wales were really struggling in every department. They just couldn't match them physically.
Yeah, it did become more and more comfortable, didn't it, for Denmark throughout the game. And that first goal kind of left Wales a little bit deflated after that bright start that they'd made to the game. But that second goal, it made it a real uphill task for them. And there were a few defensive issues in some of the goals that were conceded.
Rodin struggled. I mentioned Connor Roberts. I thought he had look, it was 2 against 1 most of the game. So you're going to struggle with the young talent that they had. Mæhle was brilliant at left back. He's going to become a star. Damsgaard, 2 young players, loads and loads of energy. And he struggled to handle them, but he needed help. Needed it. You can't just have 2 against 1 against 2 young players that can run all day and are quite direct.
And I know earlier on you mentioned the Gareth Bale situation not helping out his team. And just a final word on that before we hear from Rob Page, because he was giving Nigel Adderley, our commentator for the match, his post-match thoughts on that result. You were saying about Gareth Bale doesn't track back, doesn't help out his teammates defensively when it's needed. And when you're a team that has lost grip of the match, isn't there a bit of a personal pride? Isn't there a bit of something within you that thinks, I need to get us back into this game? If that means I've got to then slightly turn more defensive just to maybe turn over the ball to get us forward again, isn't that something that would come into every player's thinking? Yeah,
I don't think there's any Welsh player that's going to shout and holler at Gareth Bale during the game. I think the manager's made it quite clear that he's going to leave him on. And you get why, because he's a threat when he has the ball. When he hasn't got the ball, I'll ask you one question, Nat. Who do you think works harder without the ball, Gareth Bale or Cristiano Ronaldo? And you mentioned a goal earlier on.
I did. You mentioned a goal, Cristiano Ronaldo,
against Germany, where he headers it away from a corner and he sprints 90 yards to get in the other end in 12 seconds to get on the end of something. And I would argue that Cristiano Ronaldo works far harder. than Gareth does, and no one's going to point the finger at Gareth because he's on a pedestal, and rightly so. He's achieved a hell of a lot in his career, but he had to work hard. He had to help Connor Roberts out yesterday. But he didn't, because he was so concerned of, when he receives the ball and what he does, and coming on his left foot and pinging it 30 yards on a diagonal.
It ended then in disappointment for Wales, who made it through to the knockout stages for a second successive European Championship. This is what the interim Wales boss, Rob Page, then made of that result in Amsterdam.
Rob, that was a very harsh evening in the end.
Yeah, it was. I thought we got off to a tremendous start. I thought we were the better team for 25 minutes. They had to change their shape because they couldn't cope with our three midfielders. So, the goals change games. I think their first shot on target was in the back of the net. The second one was, for me, a blatant foul on Kiefer Moore. It's not given. Sometimes you get the rubber green, sometimes you don't. It goes up the other end. Nico's clearance falls straight to the player, and it's in the back of the net, and you're 2-0 down in a knockout stage. So we made changes to try to get us a foothold in the game again, and it wasn't to be.
And you look at that second goal. I mean, that was the turning point, wasn't it? So early in the second half.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the worst possible start for us. But like I said, we're disappointed the foul wasn't given. But yeah, I'm just disappointed for the players. I couldn't be more proud of what they've done. But to go out with the scoreline doesn't reflect what that group of players are all about, and they're sending off. So, like I said, they learn from it, and we become stronger from having gone through that experience.
And the makeup of this squad, we look at where the players play and how much they play. To be here, I mean, that's something, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's what I've just said to them. They're not playing domestic football, so adrenaline gets you through the first couple of games, of course. But Joe Morell's not been playing. I could go through all the team. Wardley's not playing in goal. Joe Roden, Chris Mettman's been in and out. Ben Davies has come back from injury, and we've had to use the first two friendlies to get him up to speed. So we've got a group of players that have given absolutely everything. And like I said, overall over the tournament, I couldn't be proud. I'm just really disappointed that they've gone out of the tournament with that scoreline today.
And just finally, we often see teams in transition after a tournament, but this group of players, they can move forward.
Yeah, they're a young group. They're hungry for success. They're hurting there. They're absolutely hurt, and that speaks volumes about them. We're in the last 16 in a major competition against all the odds, and they're disappointed in there that we're leaving, that we're going home.